Hey guys, Sean P here. It's now been 3 years since my family and I packed up all our stuff, sold our house, sold my business, and decided to move from Toronto to Victoria, BC. I remember when we were making our plans, we searched and searched to find a resource that would help us answer all the questions we had. Things like, should I do this in the first place? Where should I end up when I get there? And what's my life gonna look like once this is all done? I couldn't find anything that I found as useful as I had hoped it would be. And so I decided, now that we've been here for 3 years, to create a resource to share with you. In this video series, we're gonna answer those questions, and we're also gonna walk you through the logistics, some areas you could consider, and how to shop for a home when you don't actually live in the city where you're buying. I hope that this is useful to you, and at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that's unique in your situation. So please reach out, because I'd love to hear about your plans and help you figure out what I can do to make things easier on you. In the meantime, though, we've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. All right, I'm back from my little trip downtown, and I'm excited to dig into this. I'm at my home, which, by the way, guys, I've got a beautiful home. I really lucked out and also was very purposeful in searching for it because I bought virtually, and this property I didn't even see before I owned it. So I bought this and closed on it virtually because I bought during COVID. So it is possible to buy from a distance and end up in a place that you're really happy. We're going to talk about that more in a subsequent video. But what I wanted to do was really just start by giving you an overview of everything that we're going to go through in this video series. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start out by talking about, I think, the most important question, which is, should you even move to Victoria, BC? Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about planning, logistics, and the process of buying and moving from a distance. So I'm going to assume that you're not close enough that this is as simple as renting a U-Haul or filling the back of the van a couple times and going back and forth. The third video, we're going to unpack the process and some best practices I developed during my experience for shopping from afar. So how to evaluate properties, how to look at different neighborhoods, how to understand where you're going to be happy, where you're going to thrive. And then in the fourth video, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the main areas surrounding Victoria. For today's video, we're going to dig in on the main reasons people choose to live in Victoria. So I'm going to shamelessly pitch you some of the reasons I love living here, but also reasons I've seen that a lot of other people have chosen to live here. We're going to talk about things that you should be aware of because it's a little bit different here. I want to make sure that you know what you're getting into. We're also going to go through some considerations. I'm going to give you an idea of what it looks like living on the island because, again, life is a little bit different here. And so I'm going to walk you through some of that. And then finally, we're going to wrap up by answering the question, should you move here? Okay. And ultimately, that's something that only you can answer for yourself, but I'm going to give you my perspective, my experience, and what I've seen the results of being for a lot of different people. All right, so let's talk about this. What are some of the reasons that people, maybe you, choose to move to Victoria, BC? Well, first off, I'm just going to say that this location is insanely beautiful. It has this kind of scenic, idyllic nature to it that even after living here for 3 years and exploring a ton, going and camping and taking the kids on hikes and discovering new neighborhoods, I am constantly coming around a corner and just feeling amazed at how beautiful it is. This area as well is a rainforest, technically. So we have a lot of lush vegetation. Things grow on the island that don't grow in most of Canada. So we have tropical looking plants and, vines everywhere. It's just got this feeling that nature is fighting to take it back over. And then as well, it's got this rugged appeal. So if you travel outside of the city, there's just the vastness and the power of some of the plants and animals that live here are just incredible. So if you love exploring, you love nature, and you just want to live somewhere beautiful that kind of feeds the soul, it's amazing. I'll just share personally, every time that I leave the city and come back, two things that I notice are, one, how good it smells here. Every time I get off the airplane, especially if it's spring, it's so cool that this whole place smells like flowers for whole months of the year. And then the second thing that I always personally really appreciate is the water. The tap water in Victoria is so clean tasting because it's just like this mountain fresh water. And I just think it's so cool to live in a place where I just feel like living here is probably adding years to my life. Another reason that I think people move here is if they have a young family or kids of any age really, it's safe and it's friendly. So there's a real sense of community here. I love the size of the city. the core is about 100, 150,000 people, and then the greater Victoria area is around 350,000 people. So coming from Toronto, this is much smaller, and yet it's a big enough community that it still has all the services that you could want. So we can still get anything we need here. It's not like I'm traveling to find stuff. Amazon still delivers pretty quickly, like stuff like that. So there's still lots of services, but it's like a big city with a small town feel, which I think a lot of people appreciate nowadays. Stuff so that they can be out in nature. We joke, and you speak to people who are like actively dating, and they're like, yeah, I might not hear back for a couple of days, and then someone will shoot me a text because they were like on a camping trip up a mountain or something like that. And it's just really interesting that people from all age groups are here, because that's what they value. They want to be in an area that has close access to this. And it's nice to see that as a community, we've all kind of come together and we're reflecting that. And now here, the conversation is, which of the beautiful, pristine mountain lakes should we go swim in this weekend that are 20 minutes from home? I have 3 oceanfront beaches that are 10 minutes from my house. And that's not like a brag. That's normal here. And then I think one of the other big reasons that people choose to live in Victoria is the weather. This is the most temperate part of Canada. So Victoria, we do get a fair bit of rain, although people tend to lump us in with Vancouver. Vancouver has rain about one out of every 2 days of the year. In Victoria, it's not quite that. I'd say it's probably 1 in every 3 or 4. We tend to have rain that's pretty consistent daily between mid-November and mid-late January, maybe early February. But aside from that, in the time that I've been here, it's actually really nice most of the time. And our winters are very mild. We have maybe, a few days or a week of snow every year. Aside from that, most of the winter, we are just seeing a bit of rain. And usually the rain isn't all day. It'll typically rain overnight or in the mornings. And then we usually have a nice period during the day where it's not raining. And then from mid-March, early April, straight through to October, we have really good weather. Our winters are not going to be as cold, so we might have days that get down to, 0, but most of the time it's going to be +5, +10 if you're looking at Celsius. And then throughout the summer, it's not as hot as some other parts of Canada because we have the ocean breeze coming in all the time. So it's a little bit cooler. We'll usually have daytime be somewhere in the low 20s. And then in the nighttime, it doesn't cool off too much. And we have sun for pretty much 5 months straight. So the weather here is awesome. Finally, I think a lot of people move to Victoria for a change in pace. I joked with my wife when we moved out here because I'm a sales guy from Toronto. I've been selling real estate for like 2 decades, and I'm go, go, go. When someone needs something done, I'm your man. And so when I got out here, I kind of realized that people were on island time. And it's not bad. It doesn't take a lot of getting used to, but things are a little bit of a slower pace. But the thing that I found was that in exchange for that, what happened is it forced me to slow down. It's great for the kids, and people will stop and say hi. And just as a community, I think that people are a lot more laid back and friendly and open to taking a moment out of their day to just kind of be present with you, which feels good. So what are some considerations that you'd want to have in your decision-making process? What are some of the things, the categories that I think you should consider before you decide to move your family to Victoria, BC? So first of all, I kind of gave away the most important one when I said the word family there, because I think the most important thing to look at is who you're bringing with you and how will they integrate to lifestyle here. First of all, I'm just going to say that regardless whether it's just you or you and a partner, if you're in alignment with the values that is what drags most people out here, having an active lifestyle, being healthy and eating well and getting out in nature and exploring, if that resonates with you and your partner and your family, I think you're going to love it here. Getting a little bit older, we still got a big enough downtown core that teenagers will be able to find some stuff to do, and I think that they'll be well entertained. And there's just so much to explore on the island that I think in terms of entertainment, I couldn't be happier with the place that we chose for our kids to grow up. I think that they're going to grow up seeing happy, healthy people who are engaged and active in their lives, and it's just going to teach them great values, which I think as a parent is one of the most important things for me to make sure that I deliver. The other side to that is if you are a boater or you enjoy hiking, or if you're engaged in anything that is an outdoors activity or sport, we have the most incredible access to just about everything here. I'm an active diver. I absolutely love diving and snorkeling. We've got world-class cold water diving, but the wildlife here is incredible. So if you go that way, you will be overwhelmed with how much there is to do here. I still haven't explored even the tip of the iceberg in comparison with what I want to explore on the island. And then when it comes to entertainment and shows and nightlife, we've got some on the island. And if you want those bigger shows, you're really not far from a couple world-class cities where just about everything is available. All right, so what are some of the things that you should be aware of? Overall, I've been really happy that I've moved here. It honestly has been one of the best things I have done in my entire life. It's right up there with marrying Andy. Like, it's been absolutely great. And yet there are some things that took a little bit of getting used to. They were a bit of an adjustment. And so I want to make sure that you know about this stuff before you come out, because it's something that might bear in your decision. And I want to make sure that if you move out here, you're happy. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that either caught me off guard or I knew coming in, but has still been a little challenging to get used to. I'm going to start with a big one. And this one seems obvious, so forgive me, and I know you probably already know this, but I'm going to just talk about it anyways. Victoria, BC is on an island. There's no bridge to the mainland. We have ferries and airplanes. That's the only way on and the only way off. And this can be cumbersome. Aside from personal travel, you also have to think that some of the things you need might not be on the island, so it might take extra time for them to get to you. We don't have an IKEA here. If you want to order some furniture and set up your new place, you're going to have to wait the better part of a week and pay $100+ to get it shipped to you. Everything is possible. There's just a bit more of a separation. The ferry takes a little bit of logistical organization. The ferries often sell out for cars. So it's very common for you, if you want to drive across with a car, even if you book several days in advance, not to be able to get on the ferry that you want to get on. Sometimes they only run every few hours. And even if you do get a reservation, you still need to show up 30 to 60 minutes before the reservation to wait in line. And then the ride is an hour and a half long to get back to the mainland. So it takes a little bit of planning and it eats some of your time. Air travel is the same thing. We can land larger jets on the island, so it's no problem if you want to go somewhere far. The problem is more that there isn't enough of a population base here to justify flights to every destination. So the majority of destinations will take a connection. So we're connecting a lot through Vancouver, Seattle, and Calgary. Again, not a big deal. It just adds 3-4 hours to most trips, which again is a consideration for people who travel a lot. Another big one that just about everyone notices when they visit and is important considering when you are planning to live here is cost of living. Things cost a little bit more on the island. I think it really just has to do with logistics of getting things to us. So when I first moved here, my grocery bill instantly went up about 30%. Gas is a little bit more expensive. Housing and rentals are expensive, but not bad compared to other major cities like Toronto and Vancouver. They're on par, if not reasonable. And just about everything else has a slight premium tied to it. So if you're budgeting and you are trying to make the numbers work moving out here, plan for that to be an extra nudge, because it's definitely going to affect how much your monthly costs are. If you're moving from another part of Canada outside of BC, you'll also notice that it's a little bit different here if you want to get a family doctor. I don't know what the reason is. I'm sure there's some backstory and a whole bunch of people who have opinions on it, and I'm not going to go there. However, I will say that it took us about 1.5 to 2 years to actually get a practitioner, and what we ended up with wasn't actually a general practitioner, it was a nurse practitioner, which honestly has been just fine. And I think the last one that I should mention is that this is a rainforest. Victoria is stunning. When you go for a walk or a drive and you'll turn a new corner, you will consistently be amazed at the beauty of the place that we live in. They call this the Garden City. It's just unbelievable. Um, and that's because plants like to grow here because we have a lot of water. It's just kind of the deal. So um, be aware of this. It's really not too bad, but it's just something to be aware of. So the big question, should you move to Victoria, BC? And I can't answer this question for you. Only you can truly answer this question. But what I can do to kind of put a pin in all this is share a few things that I've noticed personally and I've heard time and time again from other people. The first thing I've noticed is that the majority of the people I meet on the island were not born on the island. They came here and decided they couldn't leave. And to me, that resonates. I originally moved out here 3 years ago, but my brother and sister moved out here a couple decades ago. And I remember coming to visit them, and every time I come to visit, I looked around and I just thought, what am I doing? I should be somewhere like this. I was just blown away by it. And truthfully, I'm glad that I didn't move earlier because a lot of great things happened in my life in my time in Toronto. But now I've got this perfect little family set up and we've moved out here and I could not be happier. The other thing that I'm going to share is that people who were born on the island, a lot of them tend to leave at some point. So they'll leave the island to go for school or to go live in a bigger city. And from my experience, the majority of them move back. So case in point, my little brother and sister both moved outside of Victoria, and then they tried it out for a couple years, realized that what they really wanted was back where they've been for the past decade or so, and they ended up moving back here. We do see people retiring further out of the city or choosing to move away from Victoria itself, but generally what I've found is that when people are thinking about leaving Victoria, they're not leaving the island, they're leaving the core and they'll move to a different part of the island. Occasionally we'll see people who leave the island for work or something like that, but it's not through choice of disliking living here or wanting to live somewhere even more. Typically it's a financially driven thing where they just have another opportunity somewhere else. Ultimately, this is a decision only you can make for yourself. So take your time, and I can share that if you think you'd love living here, I can almost guarantee that you'll be really glad you took the leap. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. So if you've got some question marks, reach out to me. I specialize in helping people relocate to Victoria, and I'd love to connect, hear about what you're working with, and come up with solutions to make this whole thing run really smoothly for you. You can use the link in the description to grab some time with me. I'll talk to you soon.